Hello everyone, Santa here with more Let's Make a Game Astral Collision. And right off the bat, you should be able to see a thing that I did, which is make this water wider, bigger. So I was very unsatisfied with it being kind of a little bit of an edge around this here big old island, and so I widened it up. Another thing that I did actually is I also hooked up all of the locations for the subway system, the subway station access. Thanks for the random right click there. These now have all of their locations hooked up. Everything's hooked up, and I did some debugging work to make this whole thing work. I added a couple of waits here to give time for those sound effects to play. I added some code right here to make you lose the ticket because when I was first testing this out, I did not consume the ticket. And I had to do it through some code here because I can't the change items right here can take a variable for how much you change it by, but it cannot take a variable for what item you're changing. So I had to do it through some code. So this is now up and working. I can show it to you in the game a bit later. I also did my first live stream thing this past week, so I might be a little confused about what specific things I showed off in that and what things I have done here. That is not the world. I've also been kind of working on some towns a little bit. We have Sycamore right here, which is northern farming town. I added a farmer's market right here. These NPCs only show up in the morning, and I added this time of day index. I actually had to go into my, day cycles and weather code. I went in here and I added this lovely thing to set what day cycle it is whenever the cycles transition. So these farmer markets, the farmer market NPCs here that sell you some various food. This person here sells you fruit. This person sells you vegetables. They only spawn in the morning. So when you get up from the inn over here, they will. You can go out and go shop at the farmer's market. And then just these NPCs here. It's a combo guild house and inn. I need to flesh out the bounty board. I've not done that yet. There's a warehouse here. Nothing really exciting. I want to add some more stuff here. I'm not sure about this chest full of apples. And then there's also an item over here that you can get, an Applewood Focus that gives you bonuses to fire specifically. And then Sandy March is here. I added a fisherman over here that you can buy fish from, technically. But this is where you get the boat. I don't remember what I talked about on the stream and what I talked about here or in the previous video. So just to kind of reiterate things, this is your point of progression. Once you're rank 2 in the Adventurers Guild, this guy will let you rent a boat indefinitely for 500 gold. So you can do that and then take the boat out from here. And that's how you kind of progress. That's how you can advance from this area, because you can leave there. You can sail down to Evanshire, although I don't necessarily want you there right away. Your goal is to come down here to run Piety, but you can stop by Sackerton and Sindire along the way if you want. You don't want to stop in Sindire. The enemies here are going to be super strong relative to other places. I am a little concerned because, I've arranged these things not in the way the player should be interacting with them. You're supposed to be, coming from here and heading south past these islands and coming down here. So I'm going to need to figure out how I'm wanting to arrange some of the leveling stuff, how I'm going to want to arrange some of the experience to kind of encourage you along the path that I want you to take. And in particular, how I'm conveying to you, hey, this is where you're supposed to go. Because I kind of suspect it may be a little suspect. I just used the word suspect twice, but here we are. I'm also probably going to want to thicken up this area a little bit too. I'm going to want you to kind of go from here and take the boat over to here rather than wander through this desert, because this desert's supposed to be a higher level area. I don't know. What I'm saying is that I have not necessarily laid out my world and my story in an optimal way, and I shall see if I come to regret that decision later. Another very important thing that I have spent a considerable amount of time doing, actually I can just click here and show you, is I have made NPC sheets for all of the zones. So before I just had Kendra, the Kendran like standard NPCs. So these are non-special NPCs. These are just like, fill NPCs out. I need some NPCs in this area. I'll have like special NPCs for individual like specific characters that really matter, that I'll add kind of as I need them and stuff. But I now have Sindire, Divertir, Elsana, Evanshire. You can see Evanshire has a lot of similarity going on. There's some story baked into some of these. Like Evanshire is super uniformity driven, so everybody's wearing the same clothes. This is a young person, old person, but their hairstyle is the same. Young person, old person, the hairstyle is the same. These guys are the rebels or the exiles who are kind of in this area over here. I know that's a little small on the screen, but they're kind of hanging out over there. And so their hair is wacky, but their clothes are just faded, right? It's the exact same style, but it's just faded. So there's some storytelling there. Falsaw are the guys up in the sort of northwest part of the map. So much as the world actually wraps, so whatever. Then we have Galden. Now these guys, we have people in like red and gold armor with black wings, and people with red wings and kind of more of a blue and gold armor. Slightly different styles among their armor and whatnot as well. And that's because that's a divided place. So if I were to cancel out of this, so yeah, here's Falsaw. One of those groups is going to live over here. One of those groups is going to live over here. I'm not quite sure which 100% yet. That's not how I get to random looking at NPCs. Kendra, which we've seen a bajillion times already. Kaldisha, these are the people in this area up here that's off screen. But there's just a bunch of NPCs here. Half male, half female is how I've arranged it. Kushigai is also off camera, but this is where Mishizo is from. Mivina, these are the like scholar people in the middle area with the floating island. I think we can see a bit down here. Ron Piety, Sacritan, which I wanted to make sure I had somebody with orange hair because the character from there has orange hair. I've tried to match sort of the visual styling to the character, the player character that's from the relevant area. Tulador, which are the seafaring people. And Yorgot Est, which are the people who live in the desert, which is why they wear white. Because white clothes will reflect sunlight and therefore help you with keeping cooler in the desert. And this is where, what was it? Gadagte is from. Is from Yorgot Est. Of course, I've also made text things for each of these. They're like speaky faces. You can see some of the variants. It definitely was an interesting process. I had to make some decisions about like what was the color scheme for each area, what were people going to look like, what sort of garments would they wear based on technology level and all sorts of things like that. Kendra, we've seen these guys before. So there's a lot of small creative decisions that really add up that made this process take quite a while. There's been another process that I've been in the middle of. I'll talk about it in just a moment. Once I finish Yorgot Est is the last one. Yeah, so then they have the player character faces. Cancel out of all of this stuff. So I've also started the process with enemies of figuring out what enemies belong in which area, but this is not represented here at all yet. It's a work in progress, and I'll update y'all when I actually finish it. I might need to move some stuff around, but it's been a very interesting process because I have to figure out like what enemies go in which areas, because some areas are very straightforward in terms of what enemies belong there. Like Kendra, okay, yeah, here's some simple monster things. Sacritan over here is like, oh yeah, straightforward. These enemies belong here. The sort of more human-esque enemies. For example, if I go back into this, a lot of them are down here, right? The zombie and the vampire and the werewolf. These all obviously belong there. But I'm having to make a lot of decisions otherwise. There's also some that obviously belong in Kyushigai. The Yakuza, for example, is super Japanesey, and that's a more Japanese-inspired-esque place. The Tengu also fits in there very well. And like some stuff belongs clearly in this desert area, particularly the Behemoth. But I'm having to make some other decisions. I'm thinking I'm going to actually move the Cockatrice out of Kendra and move it into the desert as well, which is going to require change to the Devil Hen in terms of that sprite. Also, Kaldisha, with a lot of this more spirit type enemies and a lot of the more like angely type enemies. I think I put the fairy there as well. But like this one, for example, going to Mivina makes sense as well. But a lot of these areas kind of are less obvious what I want to do with them. Like there's one enemy that kind of really made a lot of sense for this area, but then what do I do for the rest of it, right? Or Ron Piety is going to be like getting invaded on 3 sides by stuff. So like enemies are going to bleed in from here, here, and here into various regions of Ron Piety, but Ron Piety itself doesn't necessarily have anything that natively makes sense. Some stuff is going to inevitably kind of spill around, but like what belongs in Elsana, what belongs in Falsa, what belongs in Divertir, what belongs in Galden. Like these are all questions. Like Sindar is also pretty straightforward. That one's getting a lot of heavy Doom inspiration, and so I'm leaning towards enemies that feel more that way for there. But that's kind of a process of figuring out. So that's been a whole process, and once I kind of settle on something, I'll go ahead and show it off. I also added Isle Watch. This is just it's a work in progress. This is I know that's kind of topic whiplash, but that's this town right here. And I've also started getting Weston. This is Weston right here. I don't know why I called it Weston, but I did. And I've started fleshing that out a little bit. Like a lot of these things are very much so work in progress. I've not added a ton of items, I don't think. I might have added some food since the last time. Fruit salad. I don't remember if fruit salad existed or not at that point. You can now also get the Adventurer's Kit, which currently allows you to do some cooking. It allows you to make fruit salad out of some fruit. That's what it does. You get some fruit, you can make some fruit salad. Fruit salad, just to kind of show you here, where is it? Fruit salad gives you +10 to each of your stats. Of course, this being RPG Maker, I can't just do that without just making it a markup language. This is like RPG Maker, really good sort of introductory engine, but the problem that I have with it is while it is extremely extensible because for some reason it's written in JavaScript, it also runs into this issue where the UI for editing things is not extensible. So you end up basically making a markup language like HTML or something. Was that hypertext markup language? Or the HTML type stuff over here in the note area. So it's like this. All this does is stuff that I've added, right? And that's a little annoying that it kind of like, I can't just add traits to this list, but that's just how it works. I'll deal with it, but that doesn't mean that I don't feel regular frustration about some of these sorts of things. I don't think I've done a whole lot in the way of weapons. I've added the stone club as a weapon with the clobber skill, but I've not added a way to acquire it just yet. I need to figure out where I'm putting it. Clobber right here is just an attack that deals plus your strength plus 35 and removes the guard states half the time, which I will be curious to see how that actually plays. I have been adding some additional skills as well to characters. I added pyrotechnics to the berserker. I added smoke bomb, which gives all of your allies dodge this turn to the ninja. I was kind of like smoke bomb is a classic ninja skill, and I was trying to figure out what it should be, and then I realized because I was like blinding enemies, but I didn't like that. And then I realized, it lets you dodge this turn. That makes sense, and I liked that functionality. From the shadows, I adjusted to be cursed because dark is supposed to deal cursed, while metal is fear. Let's see, I don't remember if I talked about this or not, so I'm just going to talk about it now. The ranger, I adjusted things so that way Hunter's Strike is plus dex damage, and then plus that again if they have a condition. I might need to adjust this, I'm not sure, but it does add states really well off of your weapon. This basically becomes Death Strike if they have a condition on them, but it's much more likely to apply a condition, and I think it's a bit cheaper. So, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that, but I made that a little bit better that way. And then took the, dealing additional damage for each condition functionality and added it to a new skill that hit all enemies. So this is kind of a blitz that hits all enemies and does additional damage to each enemy for each condition on them equal to a third of your dexterity. So a third of your dexterity times the number of conditions on them for the plus damage. I tried to make sure everybody had two things here. Exploding Vigor makes a foe lose TP and then take damage equal to based on the amount of TP they lost. Very similar to Mana Burn, except on TP. Second Wind is heal target ally for an amount, and they lose up to some amount of TP and are healed for each additional point lost. That's actually slightly incomplete. If they lose that total amount of TP, they also gain Windborne Speed, which gives them 2 actions. But I just ran out of description space. I saw a really interesting suggestion to shrink the text or something like that. But I could, in order to get more description space. But the problem is, and this comes back to the problem that I was mentioning earlier, I cannot change this UI. This UI does not let me get a third row. I just mashed enter a bunch of times there, and it just doesn't. You get 2 lines here. That's it. And because this editor is not extensible, I would have to add something to the notes, start implementing some sort of word wrap algorithm. It just becomes very awkward. And so it's just not a very good solution. I don't know. Here's healed 3d6. This is around, I think I've talked about that one before. I have figured out what the Blizzagus is doing. The Blizzagus's spells are scaling based on the amount of TP percentage-wise that the Blizzagus has. So, in other words, the more TP the Blizzagus has, again, percentage-wise, so not raw numeric value. But if the Blizzagus has, 90% TP, then it will have a stronger effect than if it has 10% or whatever. And so this first one here is just a spell that deals damage. It's 3 times your water plus 3 times your wind, but your wind is scaled by your TP rate, so it kind of scales up with that. And then Healing Hot Spring. I really like this one. If you have more than 50%, or if you have at least 50% TP, then it also cures a condition, but it's a strong heal that if you have enough TP, cures an ally of a condition. And so originally I wrote here, at least 50% TP, but then I realized I could just spell out what 50% of your TP is. So that's kind of what's going on there. Flame Swath is what it's been. You lose a 15th of your maximum HP for each enemy you hit. Reckless Bash makes you lose a stage each of fire and earth, but it always inflicts fear, and it does plus damage equal to your earth plus your fire plus your strength plus your dex. So it does become a bit weaker each time you use it. Well, sort of. You cap out. You can't go below -2 stages. But it does become a bit weaker, but it starts off as a pretty strong attack. If you have a lot of fire, Flame Swath can be more powerful, I have found. But let's see. Burning Intensity, I think, was already around. Yeah, that one was. So we have Piercing Gleam. Hydroblast, I think, is new. This is a Prismage spell. I basically wanted to make sure everybody had at least two spells for level up. So this one deals 2 times damage to each foe, and it deals 3 times damage to each foe that you have more MP than. So it does a bit more damage, but it's a all enemies spell. So I don't know. This one still needs to be tested some. Gentle Light also. I really like the design of this one. So this heals an ally for 6 times your fire and water. If you have more MP than that ally, it heals for twice as much, right? if you target yourself with this, you can never have more MP than yourself, right? Because it's a strict greater than. It's not greater than or equal. So if you target yourself, you're only ever going to get the half heal off of this. So I really like that design. One of the things that I really wish this game had is for the scope to be other ally, like you can't target yourself with it. I looked a little bit into potentially implementing that, but it looked like it'd be a giant pain in the rear end. So I'm not worrying about trying to figure out how their targeting code works and setting that up. Speaking of random other things, I noticed, if I go over to here, I just added a thing. If an item has a max value, then that's the maximum value rather than 250. I'm going to need to test that to make sure that works. I haven't done that yet. But I realized that I could add that line, so I did, and we'll see if I actually bother to use it. But yeah, I like the design of Gentle Light because it is less effective on yourself. I added this spell here. So I moved Balance MP up. Balance MP was originally the second skill for the Telenergist, which is the character that manipulates MP. But this feels like a bit of a later spell. I don't necessarily want it right away. I want it a little bit later. So I made a spell that's called Recharge, which I really like the name of. I came up with that one later. It was originally Regain, and I'm like, wait, no, Recharge is a perfect name for this. But this is a HP Recover spell. It restores MP to target ally, and based on your fire stat. And then for each point of MP that it restores, it heals that ally for wind. So if you don't if you can't restore much MP to them, it doesn't heal for very much. And so this is kind of a reverse MP burn, but it's lightning healing, which I think is really interesting. And so I like that design. I'm quite happy with that one. These guys haven't been changed. Except Shake It Off is now all allies. I don't know that it originally was, but I modified this to be all allies because I was running into issues where why would I use this over Cleanse or whatever? One of the things that changed because of the skill set is it became a lot easier to get like some really standard effects on characters like condition removal. And so that's kind of been affecting things otherwise in the design. These are a bunch of spells that I moved down. Also Mass Absorption. Something that I did on the stream, you can check out the VOD. It's going to be a little bit ago because I do record these kind of in advance. Is I added several enemies because I felt like the initial area was a bit light on enemies. Kendra was a bit light on enemies. So I added these 4 oozes. They will drop the associated fruit with that element. If I haven't gone over this yet, again, I can't remember specifically what I did, but oranges, grapes, apples, and cherries all boost a specific element, elemental affinity. So Mass Absorption was a skill that one of them had when I realized that Healing Spring does not work super well on these enemies. But these guys they have Zealous, so they'll restore MP when they hit you, but they only start attacking when their MP gets below 50%. Otherwise, they like to use their relevant spells, and Incinerating Fury becomes much more likely partway through. But you'll notice that they don't take very much damage from slashing, striking, piercing. They're immune to their relevant element, but there are other things that they're very weak to. And that's kind of true across the board. In general principle, Ice is very strong against these guys because it absolutely destroys Air Ooze and is good against Earthen Ooze. So I added a bunch of troops with these oozes in them. Yeah, and some rats and other stuff. Because of those early areas in particular, I don't remember what I've gone over. Deadly Poppies, were they around last time? They might have been. Deadly Poppies are more of a defensive dude, and they have some healing skills and stuff that they'll use on enemies. Mushroom Snakes as well have some chance to drop mushroom, or they always drop mushrooms and some hide, and sometimes 2 hide. But they always attack twice. They always get 2 actions. But I realized as I had added a bunch of stuff to sort of these later areas of Kendra, that these earlier areas up here were starting to be a lot of buzzkill fights. Just a lot of buzzkills, like the 2 buzzkills, or like the fights were just starting to get very monotonous. So I wanted to add a lot more diversity there. So I did that by adding a bunch of slimes that maybe the player's going to hate me for because it makes a lot of their attacks less effective. But anyway, man, there's a lot of different stuff to talk about here, isn't there? And again, it doesn't help that I can't remember specifically what I've talked about at what specific times. I think that's much of this. Let's go ahead and demonstrate a few things at least. Yes, we can save changes to the game. So if I load this up here, my reflex was almost to hit the pause play button, which I have mapped to music, but that would not be great. So I'm going to start by loading these guys up because, oh, yeah, okay. I can't get to my boat because my boat is on the other side of this and it doesn't automatically load in. That's because I added this after I did that. Okay, so I can get my boat. I don't necessarily want to walk around all of that. If I go over here, my boat will automatically spawn over here. Over here is going to be the easiest way to get to this. So I can go to the subway. This is always under fluorescent lights. So I can get subway tickets to wherever. You can see most of these have proper names. This one doesn't yet because I don't know what I'm calling this island just yet. Let's just, I don't know, I'm going to have double up on some of these. Mountain Route doesn't actually go anywhere yet. I haven't made Mountain Route. But if I use this, for example, I can come out here, and now I'm over here. I don't really want to be over here, theoretically, but I can get over here. So this is kind of like the fast travel system. This will take me to that island. Yep. I can't really get anywhere here. I'm thinking I want to add some additional geometry here, so that way I can add a little port town where, like, your boat will spawn. Yeah, so I'm thinking of adding, like, a dock on this. I need something. Something else that bothers me, I'll show it to you here. Yeah, sure, Elsana. Now, you can start using these tickets right away, by the way. There's no restriction, but if you go into an area that you're not prepared for, you're going to get destroyed. So right here, this tile set does not have a proper, like, door tile hole thing. So if I were to click on this and not be so zoomed out, zoom in a little bit, in fact, you can see, like, it has a special sort of hole for it, which is this tile right over here that you can walk into. Like, you place it on a wall and it lets you walk into it. This tile set does not have any of that. Like, it has some stuff, but it doesn't have that, right? It doesn't have that proper hole. So it kind of, that's weird to me. I don't know why it doesn't, but it makes it very awkward to figure out how I'm doing doors. Like, I don't see one in this tile set. I've looked a couple of times. I haven't seen one over here. Again, I have glanced through this a couple of times. I also haven't seen one over here. So you might be asking, wait, what's that I see kind of behind the doors? Well, it's the fireplace. But the fireplace doesn't function the same way. Now, I might be able to edit it if I go into tile sets and go SF inside. But I'd need to check this one. Those are just circle, passage, train tag. Oh, you can add train tags there. Ladder, bush, counter, damaged floor, train tag. So it's passage 4 and like that. Okay, so if I go SF inside, you're watching me to see if I can figure out fixing this in real time here. Passage. Yeah, let's give you circle passage. Passage 4 door. Okay. I don't know. We'll see if this fixes it. So if I go out here, you can see, by the way, I'm in Elsana now. Let's see. Where do I want to go? I just went to Elsana. Divertier. Yeah, I still didn't walk into it properly. Here we are, Divertier. There's going to be a lot of stuff I need to do here. This is going to be quite intense to set up some of this stuff. You can see they walk in there. Oh, my fruit salads wore off. Sacritan. I can show you that this is hooked up to everywhere. I probably need to reload to get the tile set to work properly. But yeah, we're over here now. That's cool. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and save, refresh. Evanshire, sure, why not? Yeah, okay, now we walk into it. So I'm gonna have to just use the fireplace. It's kind of awkward, but here it is. Now we're over here. The land of uniformity. And so on and so forth. Okay, let's go ahead and swap characters. Maybe? No. We'll just take these... Whoop. Yeah, I do want to be over here. Okay, let's just go see if I can fight some slimes, just to show you guys those. Show y'all some slimes. Okay, these are not slimes. I don't remember what the escape algorithm is. I should probably look into that at some point. Oh, yeah, also, while I'm thinking about it, the Adventurer's Kit. I need to make it so that way you're not interacting with the dude, but right here, you can make fruit salad if you have an orange, a grapes, an apple, and a cherries. That's awkward grammatically, but whatever. Yeah, okay, here's... Now we're going to absolutely curb stomp these, because we are... Well, I don't know what she has there, but because we are super over-leveled. By the way, interception, I made absorb damage that you take instead of giving you an initial heal. I just remembered that as I looked at this. Yeah, I mean, I guess just attack and ooze. 1d4 of dark is probably going to just end them. Spell charge is from her offhand. In case I want her to do more or whatever. Hey, it's cursed. I really don't care about a lot of these spells. These characters are too high level. These are made for like level 4 or 5 characters, something like that. And all of my characters are like level 13. So, oh, silence is annoying though. Oh, she's using like a scythe or something. I mean, I can just Sickening Soil. That's gonna be more effective here. Yeah, I don't need a Rallying Cry. I can intercept. Yeah, she can't use any spells because she has a thing on her. She doesn't have BMP. Sure, why not? Just attack here. So anything that they do to Sir Lionel, see, that healed him instead, and he just absorbs all damage this turn. I don't know if that's going to be too strong or not. I might give a limit to it at some point. Obviously, good job. These guys are very strong against a lot of physical damage. But if you have some good spells, they do, and some good elemental damage, they do get absolutely destroyed. I've also done probably some other tweaks to things here and there. This Blitz could be really strong if she had a staff that she was working with, but she's, I think, yeah, she's using the scythe right now, so it is not. Slicing Winds. I don't know, we'll see how that goes against the Earth Muse. Valiant Attack. I'll Valiant Attack the air. Valiant Attack the air, that sounds really silly. The fire guy is just going to die from poison real soon. But you can see these are a little bit varied in terms of what they are as enemies. Oh yeah, she has a friggin' magic tome. Of course it would be effective. Derp. See, that's the thing, is like, it's not physical attacks, it's slashing, striking, and piercing damage. That they're like, we don't care about these things. You know, if you have good ways of dealing with them, like just her auto-attacking because she deals spell damage. Yeah. Again, damage types. Oh, there it goes. They're in a reasonable place. If you're properly equipped up and have a decently balanced party and stuff like that, you can get through them not without too terrible much difficulty. By the time you're like level 5 or 6, but if you go in there like super underprepared, they will absolutely wipe the floor with you. And that's a particularly rare and difficult spawn. You usually only see one of them at a time, maybe 2. But yeah, so that's that stuff. I don't know if there's anything else that I specifically want to be showing off. But like once you get a high enough level that you begin getting access to from the dark, right? Mishizo's dark damage skill, and just different skills that let you deal different damage types. It really helps, and it really makes it much more feasible to kind of get through some of that stuff. So anyway, I think that's a lot of what I have to talk about. Again, there may be something that I'm missing. A lot of time just went to making all of those NPC sprites. And like I said, I've started sorting enemies to figure out where they belong and all that sort of stuff, and what enemy sprites are going to appear where. So anyway, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap stuff up. Again, I may be blanking on some stuff that I did do just because having talked about it on the stream as well makes it a little bit blurred together. It's just a lot of stuff going on this week. It's been a busy week. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, everyone, take care. Goodbye.